Hey mamas, welcome to Modern Nurture, where mamas meet at the intersection of instincts and evidence. I'm your host, Jess, and today you're listening to one of the episodes in the Stay-at-Home Mom series. This is a series I recorded when I was about to become a stay-at-home mom after working in tech and engineering for 10 plus years. So I interviewed a bunch of moms who were in high demand careers and made the choice to become stay-at-home moms. We talk about why they made the decision, what kind of hurdles they had to overcome to be able to leave work and stay at home, and how the transition went, because it can be rough for some or all, and how the transition went and how things have gone since then, any regrets, what they loved about it, and we talk to mamas in all seasons of life. We have a grandmother, we have mamas who are still in the thick of it with toddlers, and everything in between. So I got a lot out of these. I really enjoyed the conversations. I hope you will too. And if you enjoyed this kind of, real talk kind of conversation with just chatting with moms, comment real talk below, comment real talk on Instagram, and I will do more series like this. Thanks for listening. Let's get into it. Hi, Kiona. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to dive into this.
Yeah, we're here today to talk all things stay-at-home mom. Would you introduce yourself and then talk to us a little bit about what your life and career was like before you became a stay-at-home mom?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kiona, and I am the wife of my husband Kumar, also my high school sweetheart. We have three beautiful human beings. They are 10, 6, and 2. And I went into the career of birth work very early on. I had my daughter when I was 19, and I decided to become a birth doula when she was about 1. And so after she was 1, I took the training, and then I didn't actually get my first client until 2016, which was a little bit, probably 2 years after. No, yeah, 2 years after. And once I attended her birth, I actually missed her birth, but once I was by her side, because she had a precipitous birth, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do this all the time. So I dove into birth work and eventually became a student midwife and a birth assistant as well. And then COVID took midwifery away from me because I just couldn't balance going to school on top of doing clinicals, on top of being at home with my family. So my career in birth work was really intense. I was so used to just going all the time, 24/7, literally being on call 24/7 and doing the balance of, all right, everybody, time for mom to go. I'm going to go help a baby. I'm either grabbing them all and taking them to my father's house or, navigating the whole childcare process. So when I became a stay-at-home parent just 2.5 years ago, it was really hard for me. It was really hard, and it was actually very unexpected because I was working as a front desk office manager at a birth center, and it was a birth center that I loved so dearly. They were so kind and just did amazing work. But the birth center got bought out by another organization, and that organization just happened to be a birth center that I resigned from previously for racism and discrimination and stuff. And so I was like, I don't want to stay on. But then I didn't even have to make the decision because they made it for me. And they were like, we actually don't need you. As soon as they saw my name, they were like, no, you're good to go. But it was done in a really abrupt way. I actually found out via email, which was no fun at all. And then at that moment, I was like, well, this is kind of a blessing in disguise because I was taking my youngest with me and she was 7 months at the time. And so with taking my youngest to work with me, her being 7 months, getting into the time of needing more, not being so much of a potato to just be there, it was kind of perfect timing. So we decided at that point that I would be a stay-at-home parent because we could not afford childcare for 2. And so we just kept my middle child in childcare, or not in childcare, but he was starting preschool. So he was in childcare. He stayed home with me when I came home, but then he was at that age where he needed more. So we had him go into preschool. And that was the beginning of my journey. So
how was the transition going from working like crazy to being home? Hey mamas, I just wanted to pop in really quickly and let you know that I have written a children's book. It's called My Little Hands. This is an old proof copy. My new one's coming in the mail. It's called My Little Hands. It is inspired by Montessori practical life activities. And I've had this story in my head for a couple of years. It started when my daughter was a toddler, and I was setting up Montessori practical life activities with her, like getting a learning tower and letting her cut veggies with me and getting herself dressed and all of those types of things. So it just walks through the day and all the different things your child's little hands can do. It has a sweet little ending, and it also rhymes. I don't know if you know this, but rhyming is actually good for language development, and my kids love it. They also love realistic illustrations, and that's in here too. So if you want to support me, there's a link below to get a free copy of my book in exchange for a review. That would mean the world to me. And if you're catching this after the launch, then you can check out the Amazon link below too. I hope you check it out. I hope you love it. I can't wait to hear from you. Catch you later. And in case you're wondering why I'm kind of whispering, it's because I have my baby here in the carrier and he's sleeping very lightly. So I'm going to let him get back to a peaceful nap.
I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was doing something wrong because I was like, okay, I'm so used to like having all of these things to check off this list. And, you know, I was also taking care of the home while I was still working full time and being a student full time. So I was like, okay, let me try to find this balance. And since I was like 2/3 of the things, like 2 out of the 3 roles that I carried were like taken up off the table, like I was no longer a student and I was no longer working, I was confused. I was like, what do I do with my time? I feel like I'm wasting time because I'm sitting here with my toddler, and as much as I love being on the floor and playing with her and everything, I'm like, all right, what's the next thing? So it was tough. It was really tough. And the only thing that pulled me out of that kind of confusion was setting a deadline for myself, which is what led me to creating my podcast over a year ago. So, yeah.
What do you mean by setting a deadline?
Well, I needed to have something to work toward. And I'm not the type of person, well, I have this whole thing of like, I really struggle with the idea of being like just a stay-at-home mom, or quote, air quotes now, just, okay, a stay-at-home mom, because I was so used to doing more. And when I first had my oldest, when she was first born, I was 19 and I was like, I would love to be a stay-at-home mom. But then I was alone with her for the first 4 months and I was like, I need to do something. I can't just be at home. Like, this is too much. So I ended up going back to school, which was the plan anyway, but it just happened sooner than I thought it would. So this time around, I was like, I need a deadline of some kind. I need to be able to work toward a goal. And as much as I do appreciate working toward like maintaining the home and making sure my laundry is done on time and there's no dishes in the sink, like that wasn't enough of a deadline for me. And I was like kind of resentful of my husband too. I'm not gonna lie, of like still being able to keep the same schedule and do all the same things when my life felt like it was shifting tremendously. But he also, I forgot to mention this part, another reason why we decided that it was good for me to stay at home was because he just happened to get a promotion a week after I was let go. So financially, we kind of just evened out. And I was like, okay, so this is doable. And yeah, I hope that answered your question. I'm kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, so I started kind of shifting my mindset towards being stay at home for probably the last year. I thought I was going to work for another year. So I started this podcast as kind of like the thing I could hold on to.
Yeah.
The thing to give me adult conversations and things like that. Because I think today, in today's world, we don't really have the community and just the people around us that we would have had in previous, generations or times. And so you got to kind of build that for yourself, I guess. So the podcast was my way of hanging on to something, and
Yeah, I can
talking to
relate
adults,
that.
like I said. Yeah.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that, because that was another reason why I created my podcast too, because I created my podcast called Birth as We Know It.
Mm-hmm.
I created that about a year into being a stay-at-home parent, because at that point I was like, okay, I got this like thing down, I think. I think I got this down. I'm pretty much staying on top of stuff, but I just wanted to have a deadline and to also have those conversations, because I'm a birth worker. So being able to talk about birth is everything that I do.
Yeah.
I will sit for hours and talk to people. I do sit for hours and talk to people about birth, and whoever wants to listen, whoever wants to share, I am all ears. I'm an open book when it comes to birth. So that's why I created the podcast, because I also wanted to create that community and connection, because everything is so virtual now, especially since COVID happened, or is technically still happening, but it's here forever now.
Yeah.
Having that connection and community on something that is so different for everyone, but happens for everyone, which I guess is similar to your podcast as well, is like, when we become moms, like, we're moms now. And what does that look like for us? And how does that, change? And what does that look like individually? And how did you get there? What are you doing? Like, what do you do when your toddler decides to throw a fit in public? Like, all these things, just talking to people about it and not feeling alone in it.
Mm-hmm. So backing up a little bit, when you first started being a stay-at-home mom, how did you figure out how to structure your life? Because you were used to being super busy, but there's still a lot to do to just keep up with the home and raise your children. So, and they benefit a lot from structure, right? So like, how did you figure out how to structure your day and live day to day without the push of a work schedule?
I'm still figuring it out. I am still figuring it out. I tried to kind of be that example of like a Pinterest mom, and I'm like, okay, we're waking up at this time, and then we have snack, and then we have playtime, and then there's lunch. Like, I tried that, but I just couldn't keep up with that structure exactly, because everybody's human and toddlers are toddlers. Like, they don't, there's no like rule book on how they act every day, And then it was also me trying to occupy my time and say, okay, I'm at home with my toddler. Let's go somewhere. Let's go visit grandpa. Let's go visit your auntie. And so those like visits would change when nap time fell and when snack time happened. And so it was a little bit of a struggle, but I would say the strongest thing that I'm doing now is just trying to get everybody to bed between 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Like, all right, you go to bed at this time. That means we wake up decently rested, trying those things. So I guess that, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's more of just like still figuring it out.
How old are your kids now? You're still a stay-at-home mom, right?
I am, yes. So my oldest is 10 and my middle child is 6. So my two oldest are in elementary school right now. And my youngest is 2.5.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So do you think do you feel like mentally like you want to go back to work once your youngest gets to school? Do you have those thoughts yet, or are you still just happy where you are and you'll think about the rest later?
I mean, I'm a go-getter, so I know I'm going to do something. I mean, This podcast that I have is I'm kind of shifting it into a business rather than a hobby. So the hope is that when she goes back to work, when she eventually goes to school, I can go back to work at my own pace with doing a podcast, connecting with people in community and doing that, because I truly love it. And by the time she's in school, I wouldn't be able to be on call as regularly because childcare is still an issue. Mm-hmm. So just finding a way to do what I love while still being as present as possible.
It's interesting to me how many moms turn into entrepreneurs when they have their babies. Like, that is just like this common story over and over and over again. and it's hard to, like it. I mean, it's completely understandable. I hope that somehow we can shift. I don't know. My grand dreams for society is somehow we can like recognize how valuable it is for moms to stay home and
Yeah.
find a way for them to work flexibly and jobs that can
Yeah.
be done that way, you know? Not
Yeah.
everything can be done that way, but some can.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially that became more like highlighted during COVID because everybody had to work from home and everybody had to be flexible if people got sick. You know, there were these policies on how long you had to be away or how long you were allowed to be away for health reasons. So flexibility is definitely possible, but I am a strong believer that our like society is not built for women and mothers or parents at all. So we are kind of finding our own way to work within this system that we have, while also trying to make money because we still need income. And having to navigate that is so challenging.
Okay, so looking back, do you have any regrets about being a stay-at-home mom or any advice for moms considering that now?
I do not have any regrets. I actually would highly advise people to take the opportunity if they can and if they're able, because you get to learn so much more about yourself as well as your kids. So it's like a learning time for both parties. um, so, yeah, I would say I would advise it. And what was the other part of your question? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
So I guess advice for mothers making the transition or thinking about making that transition now.
Yeah. So for those that are in the process of making that transition or thinking about it, just know that there are others out there doing it with you. You're not alone. There is a community out here. And to know that the way that you are a stay-at-home parent does not have to be the same way someone else is a stay-at-home parent. Work within your limits. And if being a stay-at-home parent means you still send your kids to daycare so you can have a break during the day, do that. You know, you don't have to just have them all the time and go and be completely overwhelmed and to like be resentful of your partner and like, you know, it ends up being the spiral of a thing. Work within your limits and trust yourself and take it slowly.
Awesome. Great advice. So tell everyone about your podcast and where they can find you.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Birth as We Know It, and it's a podcast that's dedicated to recognizing the many different ways that birth unfolds. So I talk to birthing people, partners, birth workers, providers, and more. And it's a lot of fun to have conversations about all the things, and my podcast focuses on the wide spectrum of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So I go as early as conception, and then we even talk about postpartum mood disorders or postpartum psychosis and things like that, because there's a whole picture on how people get to become parents. I actually just interviewed someone who adopted children because they couldn't conceive on their own. So that's how they were birthed into parenthood. And that journey matters too, you know? Mm-hmm. So if you want to find me, you can go to birthasweknowitpodcast.com. And if you want to find me on any socials, it's Birth As We Know It Podcast.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.